Okay, so what we need to do now in this practical is put in some validation. We need to make sure that the user A puts in values into the weight field and the height field, and B puts in reasonable values. Okay, well, it's quite easy first of all to just make sure the user puts in values at all, because we can use a control called the required field validator. All the validators are in fact kept under the validation tag inside the toolbox. So if we just click on the required field validator and just drag it next door to the field that we want to validate. Okay, so there's the field we want to validate, the weight field. Okay, and this is our validator, and let's create another validator which will be next to the height field. Okay, so clicking on this one now, let's move, let's hide the toolbox for a second so that we can see a bit more of the screen. And I'm going to show now the properties of the required field validator. So there it is, the required field validator. First of all, we have to say which control we're going to be validating, and it's definitely going to be the weight field. And luckily from here I can just choose the weight field. Okay, and then there's going to be an error message. So I'm going to say something like this: you must put in a weight. Okay, that's it. Enable client script will say that's false, just to make sure that it's done at the server rather than at the client end. Okay, the reasons for that are explained in the text of the tutorial, so I point you to that. But let's do exactly the same thing for the other one. So we're going to now make sure that somebody puts in the height. Okay, so again you have to choose which control you're validating. Well, we're going to be validating this particular text box, the height text box. So let's click on control to validate, and we choose height. Okay, and we say that we don't want it to enable the client script, and we're given an error message: you must put in the height. Okay, so we've done that. Okay, and then finally what we need to do is we need to put in an if statement inside the script, which typically when you press the button it will just simply calculate your BMI and put it into the BMI label at the bottom. But we won't do that this time. We will actually put in an if statement. If the page is not valid, then we're not going to run that. So let's go into the source and let's go find our script. Let's give us a bit more space. So here it is. The script is kept under submit click. Okay, and so let's put an if statement right at the very start. So if page dot is valid, then we can run our script and display the BMI. Else we do something else and just put end if. I'm not going to actually fill the else clause up at the moment. We'll just put that there. Okay, for now. So we're just saying only if the page is valid do you actually do the calculations. So let's watch that then. Okay, pressing play, so it's going to be going into Firefox, and I'm going to play. So I enter my weight in kilograms, 100. I click submit. What should happen now is you get an error message: you must put in the height. Okay, so that's good. Okay, so I'm going to say my height is 1.80. Okay, submit. Okay, and it calculates again 30. But suppose I said, unusually I said I was 10 meters high. Imagine that. I was 10 meters high. Okay, it would say I have a body mass index of 1, but human beings are not typically 10 meters high. So we need to find out another way of kind of constraining this to give us sensible things. And also, suppose I put my weight in kilograms as being Gordon Brown again. The problem would be I would click submit, and again it would give me a problem, invalid cast exception, because all kinds of nastiness going on there. So what we need to put now is a range validator, not merely a field validator. The field validator just merely checks that there is content in the field. The range validator, however, checks that it is sensible content. So let's go back into the design and let's again show the toolbox again. So bring up the toolbox, And now let's add another control, which is going to be the range validator. So if we go down a bit, you'll see the validation, and then we put in the range validator after the field validator. So we're now going to put another range validator here. So a weight in kilograms mean probably sensibly from 0 to 150 is probably our I don't know, I mean obviously a human being who weighs 10 kilograms is slightly worrying, but but just for now let's just say from 0 to 150. Okay, so let's there's, you see, there's our maximum, there's our minimum. So I'm going to put the minimum as being 0 and the maximum as being 150. Okay, and what it needs to be, we need to say which control we're going to validate again. So I'm just going to choose that I'm going to be choosing the weight one to validate. Okay, and then what I will also do now is do for the height range validator, for the range validator relating to the height. I click on that one. I'd say I'm going to be validating height, and again here the minimum is going to be 0 and the maximum is going to be 3. So I mean, a human being up to 3 meters is probably the maximum. Okay, so let us now, I think that is probably everything I need to do. So let me just now test if that can work. So let's kind of click on the play button again and to run it again. And so now hopefully if I put in not sensible values, it should complain. So there's enter weight in kilograms. So if I go, let's just do normal values, 100 divided by 2. Okay, and that gives me a kind of a 25. Okay, so now let's suppose my height I put as 4 meters high. Okay, so then I click submit. Okay, so that's right, I haven't actually put my error message inside the range validator, so we will need to kind of do that first. So let's go back into Visual Studio and click on the range validator. If I click on the range validator and go into the properties here, I need to put in a sensible error message. So error message, that is not a sensible height. Okay, and on the range validator for weight, I can put in something like that is not a sensible weight. Okay, I think maybe there is the kind of client-side business as well that we covered last time. Enable client strip. Again, I'll make that false, so that you'll notice that then it won't happen as soon as I put the value in. So enable client script equals false. Okay, so now we've done that again. So let me just stop this, and then finally this should hopefully work, whereby it's now kind of insisting that I put in values and that they are sensible values. So enter height, weight in kilograms. Again, I do it just with normal values first of all, just to make sure I haven't ruined anything in the program. So that is sensible. Now I put my height as being 4 and I click submit, and I say that is not a sensible height. I put my weight as being 400 kilograms, and I click on that, and it says that is not a sensible weight. So now you see, as a consequence of that, we've constrained the user not only to make sure that they have put in values. So if I take out everything out of the weight, I press it and it says you must put in a weight. So now this is actually very, very nice. As you see, very, very easy to actually make sure the user puts in sensible values. So anyway, and what we've also done is that we've also encapsulated all of the intellectual things inside that body mass index calculation into a single function. So our code is quite elegant. Let's go back to the code. Okay, if I go into the source and look in the script, you will see there's my get BMI. Okay, there's my if page is valid, and then I get my BMI value by running the function get BMI, and as a consequence I get it to be shown in the label BMI. setting its text property. So there you see, in Visual Studio it is very simple and easy to validate what the users put in to their web pages. Okay, so having done that, now we can move on to learning about select case statements, which we do in the next practical.